Hi, everybody. We're here for the Webcomics 101 panel. And I got a couple things just to quickly kind of go over, but I think we're generally going to do kind of introductions to the people on the panel, just a little bit about the work that we're all doing and have done, and then we can kind of break it up into a more kind of general webcomic conversation, like we say, 101. So I think we're going to be starting kind of pretty broad level, and then kind of seeing what people are interested in. So yeah, webcomics. Webcomics are kind of interesting. The name is very interesting to me, just because it means different things to different people. Generally speaking, webcomics, it's most accurately just comics that people decide to publish online, who kind of like skip over a third party or a middleman and just kind of self-publish, independently publish, basically just start getting stuff out there. But like I say, that means something different to a lot of different people. So we're probably going to be going over a few different types of webcomics, formats, genres, that sort of thing today. But first, if you don't mind, maybe we'll start on the left with introductions.
Sure.
And work our way here. So we've got...
Online, as my sort of artist moniker, I go by Beef. It was actually a nickname given to me, and it's always awkward introducing myself as Beef because it's whatever. But that's who I am. Feel free to ask me questions about picking a username to publish your comics under. I've been publishing an online long-form, page-by-page fantasy drama webcomic. It's called Uneven Keel, and I publish it 4 pages per week right now. Yep.
Oh, sorry, I'm just going to add a question that I just thought would be nice for each of us is if you could think of like why you started to do your work in webcomics specifically, like what you're doing right now. Why did you choose webcomics?
I chose webcomics because, well, actually I had just been making comics, and I originally started making them as just short stories from like the tabletop role-playing games that my friends were doing. But a whole bunch of people were like, oh, we want to read them. Do you put them online somewhere? And I was like, sure, I can put them online somewhere. And then from there, I kind of moved on to my long-form story, and I just kept publishing online. So.
Awesome. And how long has it been going for, did you say?
My current project, I started in May of 2024, so only a year and a half for this one. And I started actually posting comics in general online in mid-2023, so I've only been doing it for a few years.
Hello everyone, my name is Amanda Holmes. My online username is Holmes Atelier. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I do comics, needle felting, I make dolls and everything, so Atelier I think is a good way to phrase that. I started working on my webcomic called Fruit Rot in about 2021, 2022, and I have been working on it ever since, although it has been on hiatus for a little while. But that's how webcomics often go. I started getting into webcomics because I grew up on them. I grew up going on like Smack Jeeves on like during computer class in high school and stuff, like reading all of these indie webcomics. And I really love the idea of just being able to make something and publish it online. And so eventually with my narrative for Fruit Rot, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna start drawing this. I started drawing it and I continued with it, started publishing it online, and that's where we are now.
I'm Ryan Harby, webcomic artist. I started making webcomics about 8 years or so ago, publishing them online. If you've seen any of my stuff, it's short stuff, comedy based. A lot of the times it's not like a sequential story or anything like that. And that's kind of like has something to do with why I started doing webcomics. I saw it as an opportunity to do a lot shorter format stuff. The other thing about webcomics for me that I really wanted to pursue, even though I might explain that I do still have a problem with the word, is that to a certain extent it's hard to improve or get better in certain areas unless you just start putting yourself out there. And being able to publish online on whatever format, even if it's kind of rough in the early days, it does put you into kind of this discipline of just doing it, just trying to get better, just kind of keeping consistent with what you're doing. And that's kind of one of the things that really drew me to webcomics, because I knew I wanted to do that and I knew I did have to improve. And it's a fun way to kind of like play around with that, like what works, what doesn't. You don't really have as much opportunity with, like, say, a publisher to play around with what doesn't work, because there's not much patience for that, obviously.
There's a quote I really like to build on what you were saying. The best way to make webcomics is by making webcomics. The best way to get better is just to make them. And that's something that I think is really popular with webcomics in particular, because it's so like low key in the sense that you're not publishing it traditionally. You don't have a publisher that you're like, here's my newest page. Sorry, I was a bit lazy with it. Like, no, your readers are going to be like, oh, that's fine. Versus the publisher where, there's a bit more of a standard that you're working towards. Webcomics you can just have fun with.
Though I will add, when you're publishing online, never don't speak too negatively about your own work. It's never just say this is the best thing I've ever done.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
you don't have to know that.
Yeah.
that is another thing about webcomics. We're all kind of our own critic, our own boss. You're always going to have the worst kind of opinion. All of the areas that kind of bother you in your art or your writing. And not always do other people need to hear about that. They don't, especially if they're a fan of yours, they don't want to hear from your worst critic, right? Yep. So, how about platforms? I'm curious what everybody publishes on, because webcomics, it's kind of the internet, right? So it could be a lot of different places. So what's the experience in terms of where you publish?
I publish, right now I host my comic on Comic Fury, which is...
So do I.
Yeah, so do you. Free hosting, free to sign up. It's literally just, here's your website, put your comics on it, and you're good to go. They do free, if you know how to code a website, HTML and CSS, you can do that all yourself. It's really awesome. And the administrator is super cool, because if you buy a domain, he'll hook it up to his server for you. So it personally do it. So it looks like it's like your website, except you're hosting it for free. So no need to spend hundreds of dollars on web hosting, which I find anytime I spend a lot of money early on in a hobby, I tend to fall off of it. And so my recommendation is use all of the free tools and then see how it goes for you.
Yeah, that's what's really nice about Comic Fury. Like I said, that's where I host mine as well. It's really fantastic. It feels like kind of a throwback to more 2010s, late 2000s kind of comics, because that's kind of the style. It's forums. It's great. You can host your own stuff. It's just kind of a really great site, and it doesn't have the same sort of
corporate vibe.
Yeah, exactly. The same kind of moderation. Webtoon, I know, for example, they don't like my comic there. There are just a few too many nipples in the comic for them. But where do you,
I was going to say, I do mirror on a few other websites too. I know Global Comics lets you upload there. That's way better if you're doing it chapter by chapter or issue by issue rather than page by page. And I do have a couple people on there who put a nice comment every once in a while when I remember to finally update it. They're like, wow, thank you for posting this finally. And I'm like, sorry.
How about you, Ryan?
Well, I've been I've had experience with a few different platforms. I've been on Webtoon. There's another one that's similar.
Tapas?
There you
Yeah.
go. Yes, I've been on that one too. Just, having your own website, internet browser style. But a lot of my stuff, to be honest, like you probably find it on social media, which is its own platform. But I'm curious for both of you, for like the social media side, do you view it as an extension of like the comic platform, or is it more like kind of like marketing?
I usually redirect people from my social medias to the website just because of the format of my comic. It's like page by page. So it's a bit easier to be like, come check out my comic where you can read it page by page versus in between my random rambly posts of me talking about what I ate for breakfast or something. So that's what I tend to do is I'll post like a little screenshot, be like, come check out my comic on the site I host it on. It also really helps if you do have like AdSense on your site because, you get a bit more traffic that way.
Yeah, and it's similar for me. My social media is me, and I think my comics, all of our art is kind of an extension of the self, but I don't like have a separate account for it where it's like, here it is. I did reserve like handles for my comic, but I find that there's so much work that goes into drawing and writing and marketing and all that stuff that I would rather spend my time on the fun things instead of posting on social media
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
day.
Yes.
That's what it's like being an artist. You
That-
gotta be a marketer, you gotta be a bit of everything. Social media genius, etc.
And definitely posting stuff, like posting your work online. Like it's definitely, you're in charge of everything. Not as often is somebody either writing or drawing for you, although that can happen. But yeah, no, it's a bit weighty in that way. You've got everything and you've got every job if you want it.
A one-person effort,
Yeah.
Exactly that.
So on that topic of kind of like the platforms that we're using, I'm kind of curious, by show of hands, people here, is anybody looking to get started doing webcomics or just like improving doing webcomics? Okay.
A few people, awesome.
Because one of the things I think in that regard that I'd like to highlight here is specifically the format, because that is going to change a lot of what you do. So for example, like Webtoon or something similar like that, you both do basically like similar to a page at a time, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
yeah, so it resembles a physical comic book page.
Yes.
And on Webtoon and on like
Tapas.
Tapas.
Yeah.
on Tapas and on your websites, like it's formatted so the reading is digestible that way.
Yes.
And so it's a nice experience, but you need to pay attention to that same thing for different platforms. Now, I don't want to say like if you're somebody who wants to do a webcomic and wants to do a page at a time, then do that and do like the Webtoon and host it yourself, that sort of thing. But what you sometimes see that's really tricky in people who make their own comics, publish them online, if you're trying to use every format available, social media, everything, they all want to be done super different ways, to the point where it's not even really worth your time. Like for me, my comics are often super short. Like they're bite-sized, you can read them, maybe they're one panel, maybe four, and that's great for social media. That's what social media wants. You need to kind of edit down. It's kind of like if you know that you're making a television show, then you should format everything to be on TV and for there to be commercials in between the breaks and that sort of thing. Like, so you have to kind of be really respectful to where you're publishing your work, because if not, then the platform's just going to chop it up, not share it with anybody, that sort of thing. So like, there is a danger to making comics and then trying to share them everywhere online, because certain places they're just not going to work for you.
A lot of places have style guides too, like Webtoons has like a,
Yes,
here's how to
that's
make
right.
a scroll comic, this is what you should do. As an aside, you don't have to follow those, you can just make with your heart. But sometimes those things are helpful. But it's also important to remember what your goals are. Like if your goals are to get every single person on every single platform ever to read your comic, or if it's just I want to make something and I hope like 10 people really like it, then you can just stick to one thing, and I think that's great.
And that's good too. And I would say even for that, like the thing where you're doing where you want 10 people to see it, like same thing, post it somewhere that is respectful to your format and is going to showcase your stuff the best.
My comic would do horrible on Reddit because it's long form and it's full pages and there's no context if you just post like a single page. And that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that that's not the space for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which can be kind of a tricky thing. And that's kind of like the tricky thing about web comics in general. What do you both think about the word web comics? Like, do you bounce off it or do you like embrace it? What do you think about it?
What do you think?
About the word, about the name webcomics to just categorize what you do.
I like it. I think it's pretty evocative of what it is, especially since I did grow up reading a lot of webcomics. So for me, it's almost a throwback in a way. I think that a lot of people are now using webtoon as like a synonym for that, because a lot of there are mainstream comics that have gotten traditionally published that you can buy in stores that were initially published on webtoon. Stuff like Heartstopper, for example, that's one that you can buy physical copies of. That used to be a webtoon. That's pretty cool, but also a bit out of the ordinary for webcomics, I think.
Yeah, I think, I like the term. I think terminology in general is very surrounded by different cultural feelings and thoughts, and I think it's easier to go with terms that most people use and understand. And
what is a webcomic if not a comic on the web?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Right. It's definitely a shortcut.
It's evocative of what it is.
Yes. I think the semantics of it are a little bit strange because essentially we're all doing comic work, but you're right. It's like a shortcut to explain to somebody what kind of where you can find your work and sometimes what style it might be.
And some platforms too, like Global Comics and a few others too, you can post your stuff and people have to pay to read it as well. So there are platforms like that too that aren't just free to read.
Part kind of Patreon kind of style.
Yeah, stuff like that. So there's other locations like that too.
It's a good option for aspiring webcomic artists.
Yep, for sure. It can definitely help to have a little bit of encouragement, even if it's small. How about struggles? What are some of the things that we've experienced over a period of time? For me, probably over years, that we've kind of had a hard time with, or maybe like I say, struggled with webcomics.
So I think that, if you ask somebody if they read webcomics and they say yes, there is a 100% chance that they have at one point read a webcomic that has fully dropped off the face of the planet Earth, where they're like, this was incredible, it ended on a cliffhanger, and then the artist disappeared. That tends to happen a lot with webcomics. I think first and foremost because people aren't getting paid for them, generally speaking. If they are, it is through ads or through Patreon, through donations, stuff like that. So they're not making the money back directly. And also it's a massive amount of work. You get into webcomics because of the love of the game. You want to create a comic, you want to share it with people, not because you want to make money off of it.
I work 30 hours a week on my comic in addition to my day job. So, that's a lot of time spent on something.
So you gotta love it to do that, right? Yeah. You gotta love it.
And that is kind of important to mention. Is another struggle is a lot of people when they want to publish something, they're like, I want everyone to like this, but that's not really how any media works. Like if you think about
it's tricky.
Like huge popular movies, I don't know, Marvel or whatever. Like you still get people who are like, no, I don't like superheroes, or I don't like this. And I think it's harder for like an individual on the internet to be like, oh, why doesn't this person like my stuff? And that's just how it is. And you have to be the person that you're writing for most of all, and the person that you're drawing for. I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure, because not only are you trying to kind of grow in your own discipline, but kind of as we might maybe alluded to before, like it's tough to know what your reach is going to be. You can put so much work into something, you can put maybe just a little bit of work into something, and it might hit, it might not, it might just, hit the algorithm in a weird way, or people might just be not online as much over a certain span of days. So that's why another reason why it's really important to kind of like fulfill your own artistic desires and do that while you're working on your, in this case, webcomics. Because it's going to be really brutal if you don't actually like what you're doing and you're spending all the time on it.
And some people also get a little obsessed with like the numbers game of social media, like, oh, I got this many likes, or I have this many subscribers, or this many readers. And I know for me, I like those statistics because they give me a lot of information, but I also know lots of artists who the numbers stress them out, and they like have hidden all of their statistics. They don't want to see them. So it can be good to try, if you find yourself getting too caught up in that, to kind of figure out a way that is best for your physical and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Another big thing to kind of build on that is, like, your work has an audience. It has an audience. It is just, it's hard to find them sometimes. So there are different ways of doing that, especially on the internet. The internet is like a not so bad way of doing that because, like on Comic Fury, people go on there to read comics. So, you can be like, hey, check out mine. So that's a pretty good option, stuff like that. But it does have an audience. You just got to find it.
I'm curious about, because one thing that I've struggled with in the past, like I say, being your own boss with webcomics, routine, schedule, that sort of thing is, like, especially if you're doing a lot of other things. A lot of us will have other part-time jobs or full-time jobs. You can really kind of just work yourself into the wee hours of the morning. And definitely over time, I had to set up kind of guidelines for myself where these are the like kind of prime work time, work hours, and I gotta kind of maybe edit out some of like super inefficient things about my work process and everything to kind of create a healthy balance so that I can actually keep producing and not like you say, like there's a burnout point where an artist will just like, you'll just read their stuff and it'll just stop because it's just, like burnout will just kill you and if you don't have idea. I
have such a bad habit of like turning like one panel into 3. I'm like, but I need like the tone right. I need it to, and I'm like, no, make it one panel. It's fine. Finished is better than perfect. Just finish the page already. So I'm like, ooh, how can I add more work to this? Don't do that, Amanda. Finish it.
That is the other thing is, a lot of people look at like these fully colored, fully shaded, magical illustrations that people have spent hours and hours and hours on, and it's always good to know the difference between an illustration and a comic. And you can have illustrations as panels, but know how long your work is going to be. I mean, my Uneven Keel, the comic I'm doing, is going to be, I've written the whole thing, and it's going to be about 1,500 pages when it's done.
Wow.
More on that later. But if I spend 2 hours per page, that's 3,000 hours of my life. But if I spend 6 hours per page, that's a lot of time of my life spent. So learning where you want to kind of compromise and take shortcuts in the art is kind of up to your own discretion, but
you leave the full illustrations for like the cover illustrations.
Yeah, the cover. You can have your really important panels and your cover, because remember, you're not getting paid for this. This is just things you do for fun in your free time.
That is what you just said about the amount of your life, like the hours of your life. That is such a great and mature place to be. Like, there's so many artists who have no idea. Like, who knows how long this is going to take, when it's going to end.
I kind of don't want to think about it.
It's tricky, right? Like, it's like lifting up the hood of the car. I don't know if I want to see exactly what it is, but that's the stuff you do have to be smart about to avoid kind of the bad side.
I don't think there's a right way to do anything, but I know for me, I found, planning out, okay, here's my chapter. I have sketched out or roughed out or written 25 pages for it. I have to draw these 25 pages to finish that chapter, and having that like percentage completion. Sometimes I'll get like 80% of the way there, and I'm like, oh, I'm almost done. And then that helps me like finish it. And then I've finished like a chunk, and I'm like, oh, I did it. Oh, I'm done. So that's good for like longer stuff, I think, where you can see where you're going. So sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's helpful. Your choice.
Yeah, definitely.
This is kind of a little bit of a non sequitur, but I'm just curious. We talked about we kind of talked about our webcomics, the stuff that we're working on or have worked on. But for everybody here, what's the thing that we're going to be kind of aiming for next? Like, is it going to be 1,500 pages? Is it going, like, what's the end of the, I shouldn't say end, but what's kind of like the current project? Where's the current project going for everybody?
I've been working on Fruit Rod in the background, so I'm mainly building up my buffer. I'm really eager to get started on updating it again. So, now's a good time to read it before I start. And then I'm really hoping to get back into, I usually post two pages a week. And from there, I'm just really hoping to get back into it. Honestly, Prairie Comics Fest is such a great motivator for it. Seeing everybody with their incredible comics, I'm like, oh, I want to get back to that. I love that. It's so much fun. So definitely doing that. Definitely working even more on my buffer and kind of getting that going again.
Yeah, and I kind of just met my goals for the year. So I'm going to be
incredible. Congratulations.
I wanted, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to have enough people interested that I could print the first volume, because I'd love to see, even if it's just for me, all of my work done and in books. So I printed my first volume just like 2 months ago. It's here. And so now I guess it's keep going, print the next one. So yeah, keep plodding along is my current strategy, but I'm happy. So
that's awesome. I love the idea of being done such a big goal, like at this point of the year with time left.
Yeah, exactly. It's only September.
Yeah, I know. It's like I've got a few months to go. So yeah, my buffer's going to run out in the middle of October. We can talk more about buffer later if anyone wants to talk about it. But so I've got to pick up, keep writing, keep drawing.
I in the past like 1 or 2 years, like I've been working less on short form webcomics, and the reason for that is about a year and a half ago, I was fortunate enough to get an arts grant from the province to work on my own book that is a
Congrats, that's fantastic.
Thank you. That is like a feature story-driven graphic novel. So story, one narrative story from start to finish. It's going to be not 1,500, but I think it's going to be around 200 pages, the first book. And that has been a very, very interesting experience for me because of all my past experience in webcomics and short form. Like it's been kind of like changing my DNA a little bit, going from writing something that only has to have internal logic when you're looking at it, to something that has to connect thoroughly from start to finish. And I'm hoping to have that done by this year, by the end of this year, drawing and everything. Yeah, and it's gone through a lot of redrawing and rewrites, which has been an interesting learning process for me. So yeah, that's kind of my next project. I'm still doing webcomics, like just here and there, but like kind of for the passion for it. You know, sometimes you just have something that you just want to get out there, and so that's kind of like, I'm fortunate to be able to do that as well. And that's me for now. Before breaking out into questions, I had a question that I wanted to pose to the panelists. Do we want to talk about maybe influences?
Yeah, sure. I think that sounds fantastic.
Like, I mean, I'm interested because we're familiar with webcomics and we know other webcomic artists. But I mean, so like webcomic and beyond, like if you can think of anything that like definitely has gone into your work.
Cheap Thrills by S.E. Case was a webcomic that started, many, many years ago. And the author has not only finished that on Patreon, but has sort of retooled it into a different book that was actually nominated for an Eisner, I believe, this year.
That's incredible. That's so
yeah,
cool.
so I remember following them like way back in the day, and I think that their writing definitely changed a lot for me. So
that's an example of because I've read that one too. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. That is one that ended on a hiatus.
yes,
And then for years.
over a decade, I think
Like
they
a
took a
decade.
decade off and then just picked it back up
Yeah,
again.
on Patreon.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back into
Never
reading
give up
that
hope.
one. Yeah. Never give up hope. Yeah, that one was really good. So, like I said, I grew up reading webcomics. One of my biggest inspirations is M. Carroll, who was actually here last year. I was on the horror comics panel with them, which was pretty spectacular. And they've posted a bunch of webcomics. And kind of in the same vein as like Homestuck, which I've also read. I wouldn't say that it's like a direct inspiration, but boy, oh boy, it can't not be. It's Homestuck. Where their webcomics, and this is something that we haven't touched on at all, is the fact that webcomics also include the internet as a medium. So it can have like animated elements, it can have music, it can use interactive elements and things like that traditionally published webcomics can't do, and that's something that I really enjoyed about M. Carroll's work. When you're scrolling and things are getting like spooky and horror and everything, and you're scrolling and it's like, oh, I don't want to be like jump scared, but it's a comic. So I would say that their work is one of my biggest inspirations. I'd love to include something like that in the future in one of my webcomics, is kind of having that interactive element in some way. But yeah, absolutely, that's something that I think is very cool about webcomics as well.
Reply to your commenters.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's honestly like another part of webcomics is like there's an added like element of community. Like there can be among the readership of any comics, but it's kind of like it's like on steroids because it's got a place for everybody to be immediately.
They are talking to you. They're
Yes,
not writing
yes.
a review on a website or anything. They're like, I like your webcomic, or I don't like your webcomic. It's like, oh, okay.
I submitted mine for actual feedback once, solicited feedback, and I remember one person was like, why do I care about these sad boys on a boat? I was like, okay, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole other skill too to also just totally shut out the comments, and that takes that's a whole thing, a whole skill.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I would say obvious influence, like any comic strip that was in newspapers before. Well, they still are, but it's different. And probably a lot of people know, but there's lots and lots of good webcomic artists like currently going, but like Kate Beaton, like there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't be online right now without Kate Beaton doing what she did. I don't know, there's so many, but honestly, like that's the one that I think of all the time. When she was posting comics online, it was one of those things where a lot of people saw it and realized like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like I didn't know that you could do this style online and like people would care about it. And not only that, but like the visual style would go on to influence so many things that you see today still are like direct visual references to her comics, and how funny they are. So that's one of the things that really like encouraged me to keep going with like just take my drawings out of the sketchbook, basically.
Hers are really fun because they're very short form in the same way that you make them, where they're like just kind of contained little stories about kind of whatever she's interested in.
Yes.
Which is also really fun about webcomics.
Which is great too, because you get a sense that like she'll write stuff that's like not populist, you know, like it's about like a very specific historical detail, but you either get it and appreciate it for that historical detail, but sometimes in comedy, like it's just as funny just to know that somebody is being specific about something, and that they have a depth of knowledge about it.
Yeah, I read her comics in computer class in high school, and then as I got older, I was like, oh, I understand that reference now. Oh, I get that.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. About Tesla being a weirdo or this or the other. I think it's 2:34 right now. We've got until about 2:45, but I don't know if this is maybe a good time to open it up to questions.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see who has questions or wants to share their thoughts about webcomics.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
When you mentioned earlier about being good with coding, what if you're not that techno savvy?
Well, I know Comic Fury has like pre-made stuff, and I think that they all look nice. I mean, like it's going to be a functional site. Webtoon, Tapas, those you don't code at all. It's just their default theme for everyone, so you don't need to know it. It's just extra fun, I think, if you do know how.
Yeah, the HTML usually is like, if you want to, you can, but most webcomic sites are like, here's our like base template, you know, have fun with it. Change the colors and stuff like that. At least they do on Comic Fury and a few others. But you don't need to know any of that stuff. You can just upload as you go kind of thing.
Yeah, I think by now a lot of that stuff, like you say, is for people who have the wherewithal already and like really want something to look very specific to what they want. But for the most part, like all the tools are given to us and it's pretty easy. Like I've used some coding on my website here and there, but basically to patch a couple things that were problems for a reason I couldn't have anticipated, but nothing else, I don't think.
Okay, one more question. Would you suggest then starting with one character or a group of like 3 characters for the first comic?
Whatever you want. I know that's not a good answer, but I mean, drawing what's fun and writing what's fun, I think that is more important than worrying too much about it. I will say, you know, no shame to people who start with their 1,500-page books. But I do think if you can try doing something short, like 16 pages, 24 pages, just to experiment and see how it goes and have a start and a finish, that'll help you figure out exactly what you want way easier, kind of learn by doing rather than getting advice, I suppose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of like a really good point, is start with something so you can get the flow down. Start with something that you're like, okay, do I like adding color to every page, or do I want to keep it more simple? Do I want a limited color palette or no color at all, just black and white? That kind of thing. Just so you can get the flow down, because that's a really big thing that will burn you out, is if you're like, these are way too much work. So just kind of start with something small, see how you like it, how you like the process of creation, and if you're like, it's a bit much, then you can change that. You can go back and be like, well, I'm gonna do things a little bit differently just to make it easier on me.
Yeah, like if you write a character and you just like writing that one character, then whatever. If you're like, man, I don't want to write this guy and he needs a friend, give him friends. The fun thing is if you're not having an idea from start to finish and you're kind of just playing around and going as you go, is you can change what you're doing over time. Like that was always the sort of meme of comics that started in the early 2000s is, like you have your 2 gamer couches and now they're saving the world. That's like,
Two
there's like
gamers on a couch.
Yeah, now they're superheroes, I guess. So, there's room to play with that stuff, I think.
I would also give a simple answer, which is just in terms of the writing. Start off and figure out if you have a voice for a character. If you have a strong voice for a character, then that's where I would start out with. Otherwise, like you might find yourself in a position where all of your characters have one voice. They all kind of think the same thing. But if you have an idea for a character that's strong, it's kind of how they operate. It's a lot easier to read because you can kind of predict how would they react to this, how would they react to that. Otherwise, you're kind of just guessing and sometimes not giving too much depth to the people in the story. Much easier to start off if you've got like a strong voice for one character and you know what that character thinks and what they're going to do.
Yeah, my character kind of writes himself, my main protagonist, and sometimes when I'm doing some of these scripts, I'm like, oh, he's not going to respond very well to this. I need to fix it so that he doesn't lose it on people. Yeah.
You might even have a scene that you're trying to write that is going pretty difficult because your characters wouldn't kind of jive with whatever's going on.
Which, in that case, I've had that happen before. I'm like, how do I get this person to do this? And I realized I don't. I'm to do something else.
I read this one really good piece of writing advice this one time, where if you're stuck on a scene, the issue is usually like a few scenes back, a few paragraphs back, a little ways. It's further back than you initially thought it was. And that's something that I've taken to heart. In my webcomic, I've been like, this isn't working out for my main character. And I'm like, let's go back a couple pages. Like I said, I like to create a lot of work for myself, but that is something that I have seen work out for me just in telling the narrative that I'm trying to tell.
Which is also why I work in chapters, which are about 30 pages each. I do them all at once, all the writing, all the planning, because it's way easier to adjust and consolidate things. I see like so many webcomics where people spend like 10 pages where they're sort of figuring out what's happening, and that can be fun if you're learning webcomics, but it's also like, okay, if you'd sketched all those and then read them all at once, you could probably cut like 3 or 4 of those pages, and that's 3 or 4 pages that you don't have to draw. You can save like 9 hours of your life by not drawing them.
You have these numbers like down to the...
I know. So, but again, do what works for you. Yeah. I'm not.
I like that too. If you're telling like a straightforward narrative, like working in chunks, that's generally speaking what I do as well. Like having like a full chapter that you have fully written out, and then you fully like sketch out all of the pages, all the panels, and then you can go back and be like, I'm gonna adjust what these characters are saying, or I need to switch around, how these things look. It's a lot easier to do that because then on to the next chapter, you have that initial setup that's like, okay, this works out. I don't have to go back and fix previous chapters, especially if you've already published them.
Don't redraw your first chapter.
Yeah, don't do that either.
After you finish chapter 2, because by the time you finish chapter 1, you'll be better than you were on page 1, and it will just go around forever and ever and ever and ever.
Do you plan on going back at all, like once you get like way farther?
Probably not. I think once it's done, I'm done. Maybe like once it's fully complete, I might be like, I'll redo this start, because a strong start is important. Like if we're talking about statistics, when I look at people who visit my website, 50% of them don't get past the first page, and then it just gets even worse. It's like the first 10 pages. If they make it through the first 10 pages, they usually read the whole thing. So those first 10 pages are important. So sometimes it can be good, like 3 or 4 years later to go back and kind of touch those up if you want people.
Right, like nothing, not story-wise, but just like...
Yeah, just make it nice.
I could make this more dramatic.
But there is like this uncomfortable kind of loop that some people get into that is always tough. You wanna resist the urge.
So let's say you've done this, you've written it. How did you guys individually, like at what point did you decide, you know what, I'm going to actually put this out there in the world? You know, this is good enough for me to let somebody else look at it.
Oh, it was good enough for me, so I put it up. Which again is not a very good answer, but
I think that's actually that's really good. I mean, you said you started out with like tabletop role-playing comics.
Stuff that was fun.
Yeah, you were
that
like
my
you're
friends
just sharing
liked.
them.
Yeah, I just thought my friends would read them before I started my long form thing. But that is the one thing, is you just have to be, even if you're not really confident, be like, yep, this is my comic.
Yeah.
I mean, I have read, like, some of my favorite comics that I've ever read looked like they were drawn by, like, 2-year-olds. And, like, they're just, I love them. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, story is always more important than art.
But
in comics.
Art usually
Well,
gets people looking at it
exactly.
first. And some people will read things for the art and say, this story is awful, but look at how beautiful this man is. So, you know,
That's
really,
not untrue.
so, you know, they're both equally the same, I think.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
do what you like. Like, if you like it, I mean, there's something to be said about if you're a perfectionist, then maybe you'll never like it. But
It's an interesting kind of like a relationship you have with yourself, like, because you're going to be self-critical, and as you improve at your craft over time, that self-critique is going to change too. And so you, like you say, like looking back at something that you did before, you were self-critical at the time and you got it done. And then in the future, looking back, like we all have this and we think like, oh, I could do this better, but the critique has changed over time as you improve, as you change.
it will never be perfect.
Yeah.
Because you're always moving that. And that kind of has inspired me in a sense. Like, I only put in, again, because my comic is going to be so long, I only put in like 70% effort for most of the pages and it looks great, because, I don't know, I could spend 4 more hours making this girl's eyebrows like be exact, or I could post it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, finished is better than perfect.
Yeah, and part of the self-critique too is like, am I overdoing something? Like, am I being a hindrance to myself by just like spending so much time on one page or something like that?
And it's good to recognize your successes too. Like, if I look at a page 100 pages ago, and then I look at a page that I drew really recently, and I can see that this current page is way better than that one. And that's good, because it's great. And I know that 100 pages from now, my next one is going to be better than this one.
That's a good approach. You look back at your old ones and you're like, I'm much better now.
Yeah.
Good.
It is funny though, because like to a certain extent, there is an answer that is, it's scary and you think that people might like it, but that's kind of it. Like, you have to just kind of have a little bit of confidence just to jump off a cliff and just post it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I will also say just one more thing that I think is really important is when I first started sharing my webcomic, I had the first chapter posted, and then I had a buffer. And I had a buffer of probably about 20, 25 pages, so that I could keep posting even if I was like really busy one week or something like that. Having a nice buffer, I find, for me at least, it decreases a lot of stress for like, oh my God, I have 2 days to get these pages done and stuff like that. I can be like, no, I got those pages done like a month ago. I can post them, and then I can work on what I'm working on now. So I really like having like a fairly large buffer so that I can not have that stress of, oh, I need to finish this stuff and get it out there.
Yes. And a good kind of rule of thumb, if you're looking at a buffer, is check to see how long it takes you to make a page. I can make about 8 or 9 pages a week of my comic if I am actively like focusing on it. So I can post half that many in 1 week, and then I'm always ahead by that much. So if you find yourself, you're making only 2 pages a week, well, if you try and post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're just gonna catch up to yourself,
burn
right
yourself out too.
And I also think that it's okay to just work as you go and post whenever. If you want, I mean, people do like consistency. Like, if you post on the same day every week, more people will read it. If you don't post consistently, fewer people will read it, and that's just how it goes.
That-
And I think,
Consistency is nice.
yeah, but if you don't want to be consistent, that's fine. Just don't be like super upset that you don't get like a whole bunch of new readers. And just be like, this is a choice I'm making. It's a good choice for me, and that's okay.
I will add that consistency thing, it's important for people who are actively reading and actively coming back. They're making that choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's also important for people who aren't even making that choice. Just being consistent means that the platform that you're putting it on is going to put it in front of more people. It's not going to happen as much if you go like Monday, then Thursday, then Wednesday, then, you know.
I actually used to post my comic once a month. I'd post 30 pages at once. And then now I've switched to like page by page. And there's kind of benefits to both. I definitely have more people reading it now that I post individual pages. But there's also like, as the author artist, I think that it is nicer if you read it all in one chunk. So you kind of have to balance your like artistic integrity and what you want as your priority, I suppose, there too.
Balance that with the algorithm.
And writing for page-by-page webcomics is also hard because you want a page to stand on its own. Because like if you have like 10 pages and like 9 of them are these like empty, nothing tension-building pages, that can be really cool in print. But on a website, if you're posting 1 page a week, that's 10 weeks where nothing happens.
It's like watching a single Dragon Ball Z episode over the course of like, a couple weeks.
So it's tough to figure out the pacing too of that. So
Yeah.
My name's Alfred. Not seeing the comic or anything, it is very nice to see how to get credit for what you've done. This is clearly how, and credit to you guys for the comic book that you guys have taken time out. It deserves credit, and I'm glad you guys got to this point. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
thank you.
No problem.
I wish I could answer, but I think that's just a compliment.
Yeah, very much a compliment.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just one more.
Sure.
So when you talk about the pacing thing, does that mean that you would only finish, say, half the book in like 2 weeks, or would you prefer to pace yourself and do it over the course of a month?
Yeah, and that's kind of the tricky part. In terms of, just to clarify, in terms of publishing or in terms of creating?
I imagine you're probably creating, because I mean, publishing, you probably still want to make sure you've got all the little speech bubbles pointing to the right characters.
In creating, I have to thumbnail all of the pages at once because I treat them as like one unit. So I'll do like 30. When I say thumbnails, I mean draw like a little square and then like a stick figure. And I'm like, this guy is going to say hello. So I do all of that at once because then I can see the whole thing and I can adjust it. And because of the way that I thumbnail with my little tiny stick figures, if I don't work on it right away, I will have no idea what I've drawn. So usually I work pretty quickly in the earlier sketching stages to get things to a place where I could pick them up later if I don't finish them. So I try and block off a pretty significant amount of time to do all of the like early adjustment work. But finishing stuff like coloring it in and tweaking the text a little bit, sometimes I'll spend a few weeks just slowly noodling at that stuff.
I do something very similar where I do all the thumbnails in one go, but I work in like much larger batches than that. So I will have like a full chapter or longer even, maybe a few chapters, fully thumbnailed out. Because for me, that's the part that does take the longest is the formatting, and I'll go back and I'll switch stuff around and things like that. And then I'll be able to go in and do all the line art, do all the coloring, do all the shading, all of that in one go. if you're looking for like advice on what best to do, the only way to really tell is what works for you is to get started and really be like, this is what I like doing, this is what works for me. So in terms of like, that's what works well for me, is working in the big batches like that. But, you know, like you said, you're like, I like working on them a bit faster like that, doing what fewer.
Well, I'll do 30 pages, the early stuff at a time.
That's a fair amount.
And then, but like sometimes the other thing about working in batches is if I have 30 pages, like sometimes I just want to draw this one character, and that'll be the only thing on all of my drafts is just like dozens of this one person. Or I'll do all the backgrounds at once, and I'm like, yep, done. I do all my lettering first, though. I put the speech bubbles down, and then I put the art around the speech bubbles.
I do mine last. So
Yeah.
that's wild to me. I do all my speech bubbles last thing I do.
Oh no, I'm on the other side because I don't know if I can fit everybody, right? Like once you put the text down and look at how much space you have, then it might come the process where you go, okay, I have to go back to writing because all this needs to be way more succinct so that there can be more art.
I have unfortunately covered up some of the art that I've done, but hey, you know, it works for me. It works for me, okay?
No. It's everybody's gonna do it a different.
Speaking of covering up art, part of another good thing about batch pages, especially if you're working digitally where you can copy paste things, I can kind of plan it so that I can reuse the same detailed background shot in like 2 or 3 different pages in a chapter. And that way I don't have to draw the same scene from like 20 different angles. I just have to draw it from like 6 different angles. And that helps speed up my workflow a lot too. Mm-hmm. So there's still like a wide variety, but I can adjust it a little so that I'm not, you know, drawing that many things.
Yeah.
I can only draw so many ships.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by buffer?
Buffer is the number of pages you have that you haven't published yet. So the ones that are fully finished that you haven't published. So for example, I would publish like 2 a week. And so I would have like 30 pages or so in my buffer, and I would put 2 out, and then the week after I'd put another 2 out, and so that decreases my buffer. And then when I finish new pages, then that gets added to my buffer. So it's just the amount that you have between the work you need to do and what you're actively showing people.
Yeah, I have, on Comic Fury, you can schedule pages to publish in advance. So I can set the date. I'm going to publish this page on Monday the 1st, this page on Wednesday the 3rd, and so on and so forth. So I have all of my stuff like in the queue. So that's kind of my buffer of eventually this will post.
Well, I think I'm just checking the time right now. We're just bumping up against the I think next panel. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here for the Webcomics 101.
Thank you.